Hello, everybody. Welcome to this special episode of the Brilliantly You Business Show. My name is Jenny Stevens, and I've got a very special guest this week, Claire Winter, and we are going to be talking all about content, but in a kind of more unique and special way, because not just about what content to create. We're really going to focus inside of this discussion today about how to really amplify your message with storytelling, the content that you create, and really just bring out your expertise in your special way and kind of allowing that space for creativity. And Claire is just a content expert, so I'll let her introduce herself in a second, but just thank you so much, Claire, for joining me for this episode today. I'm so pleased to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. I'm delighted to be here.
It's so cool. Claire and I have been, we've kind of known each other for quite a while now. We're in a mastermind group. And so we've kind of got to know each other a bit more over the last year or so. And whenever I think about content stuff, I've started to now think about Claire because she's got an awesome podcast, and she helped me with some tips when I actually launched this podcast and this show on my podcast. So she's fab. So Claire, I'd love for you to just kind of introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about you, and then obviously then we'll dive into our discussion today about content.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. So yeah, I am a trained ICF coach. That was my lockdown project. A lot of people did extra training and things like that. So, and I've been coaching and mentoring people on how to create great content for their business, but also how to amplify their reach through PR as well. My background is journalism. So I'm a trained broadcast journalist. I started my career at ITN. I worked in TV and radio in the news. And then I owned and edited my own magazine called Families, which covered Berkshire for 8 years. So I've created a lot of online content, audio and video. You know, back in the day when you could grow social channels on Facebook organically, which was marvelous. And yeah, I'm absolutely passionate about storytelling. So as a journalist, that's what we always go back to. And I think that's a key part of content. And if you're a great content creator, that helps you get noticed and known for what you do, and also gives you opportunities to do PR for your own business as well.
Yeah, storytelling's massive. And I know that's going to be what we're going to, kind of focus on a bit today, because it really does make all the difference, doesn't it? It really can be the difference between someone just like scrolling on past in their, on their phone or on their news feed, to actually reading can be sometimes these ginormous posts or like anything. And storytelling is just massive, isn't it? And so, yeah, I would love to kind of talk about that because I think that's it's a skill set, isn't it? And I think some people feel like they should just be able to write stories like that, and it just comes. But it is a skill set, isn't it? Like, I know I've had to develop the skill set of how to write in a sort of compelling way and create elements of your post that's going to get people to, open and want to read the rest of it and then take action. So yeah, obviously, so the fact that you're a journalist, stories is massive. So how have you kind of really seen from that career, like now coming into your online business world, just sort of, tell me a bit about how you've seen that transition for yourself, and obviously with your clients that you work with as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where often when we start in business, people have an unrealistic expectation of how much content they can create and what they should be doing. And there's that thing where they sort of stick their finger in the air and go, what should I talk about today? And that's lovely if you're having a chat round with your mates about, what you've seen on Netflix. And don't get me wrong, those kind of conversations on social media always light up, and I call them the water cooler moments, and they're great to have with your audience once you've built an audience and you're known for what you do. But the brilliant thing about where we are today is that we are all content creators. We are all acting like journalists. We are either curating great content or we're creating new content. So I think it's really thinking about your end user, those simple questions that you often get asked, what platforms are they on, and what kind of content do they like consuming. And if you don't know, ask them. If you've already built up a nice audience, do you prefer video or audio or written posts? Ask people the kind of content, and also think about the kind of content that's catching your eye. You can see things trending and picking up on things that carousels on Instagram. More and more people are using those, more people are using reels, all of those things. Note what people are engaging and talking about as well. So it's a big part of content creation is listening. And sometimes I think we're so busy in the business of creating, like I've got to create a blog, I've got to do a podcast, I've got to post 5 times on LinkedIn, and I've got to 3 times on Instagram, and I've got to go live, and you forget, like, what am I doing this all for? What's the end result that I'm going for? What are the next steps that I want those people to take? So I think it is taking a step back and going, what's the purpose of this content? What are the pain points of my clients? What do they need to hear right now? What do they, what can I respond with? What quick win can I give them so they start to trust me and go, wow, this person really knows what they're talking about?
Yeah, I think that's massive, because I've definitely fallen in that. Like before we started hitting record, I've definitely fallen in that trap as well, where, and especially like with this show, I mean, it started with a very simple going live, creating a blog and an Instagram carousel, and now it's grown into this and this and this and this, and it can be very consuming. But I think, that point of remembering the intention, like I created this show with an intention, and it is that kind of, you do need to have a bit of a check-in every now and then, don't you, to be like, am I still doing what I set out to do? What's the purpose of creating all this content? Because otherwise you're just busy for the sake of it, aren't you? And it's got to be intentional, it's got to have a strategy behind it and actually mean something, rather than, because you can make money other ways and just creating a load of reels and blogs and
exactly,
all that kind of stuff.
And some of the simplest things, look at your insights, track what's working, what's not, repurpose, reuse what is working, ditch what isn't working. Check in monthly or weekly with your metrics. There's so many different ways of looking at engagement, what's working, what's not. So definitely, I think that's the other thing that people don't do. They don't actually check their own progress. Are they getting leads, and are those leads converting? And one thing that I've really noticed, sometimes I don't do them so much now, but I used to do like an audit of people's social channels, and I'd look at all this fabulous content, and not once have they asked for a sale. There's nowhere where they'd gone, there's 3 ways of working with me. You can join my membership. I have a group program starting in November where you can amplify your reach. Or my VIP packages, you can work with me one-to-one. DM me for more details. That kind of thing. Obviously, you don't want that as your call to action on every post that you do, but sometimes people don't do it at all. They never ask for the sale, and then they're like, I haven't got any clients. And you're like, you've never asked anyone to be your client. That's why.
Yeah, definitely. It's like that balance of, yes, you want to put out value and not, but I think some people, they get so kind of scared of coming across salesy that they just never ask for the sale. But it's like, you're running a business, for Christ's sake. Like, it's okay. And people are following you for a reason. They're watching your content or reading or however they're consuming it. Like, it's okay to say, if you want to dive into this more, like, let's chat, or here's how you can work with me. And so you need to get at people who are doing that maybe out of fear, need to just really try and overcome that. And try it out, because also you don't know, like you were saying about asking your people, looking at your insights. How do you know if your content is working to take people through a journey and lead them into ways if you never actually ask for what you want? So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's again, I call it content with purpose rather than that, or what shall I talk about today? And I was on a coaching call yesterday with someone, and they were like, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm completely swamped. I'm training to be a coach, and I've got a mental health website that I want to build up and a following. And I was like, have you ever thought about guest blogging as a strategy, as in not you guest blogging, but asking people to guest blog for you? I said, if you're running a, you know, essentially a mental health hub, you know, ask people in, you know, that not, you know, not direct competitors, so not coaches, but hypnotherapists, you know, even a fitness coach who's in that space, to write really interesting articles and blogs for your website. And I said, the other thing that you can do, which is another quick way of creating content, is crowdsource. Again, go, I'm writing, we did one for my business, you know, working from home tips at the beginning of the first lockdown. I'd written a blog about that. It's one of the first blogs I ever put out on and it gets loads of traffic to this day, you know, how to survive working from home. And, you know, I've been working from home for 10 years, so I've got quite a lot to say about it. But, you know, for a lot of people, it was a really new thing to do. So to ask, you know, 10 entrepreneurs and business owners, you know, how do you work from home successfully? And then they all share it with their audience. It's a bit like that whole process of becoming a great podcast guest as well. You know, you're being shared with someone else's audience. My interview with you is going out to, you know, across, repurposed to your audience, which is great for me, and great content for you. So we're both winning, you know. And I think that's the other thing to think, you know, how can I approach this differently? You know, if you get someone to guest blog for you once a month, that's a blog you don't have to write. Obviously, you need to edit it. Yeah. I was saying to her, you know, make sure you create kind of like guest blog guidelines, you know, length, style, tone of voice, whether they can promote something or not. And then you've got this, you can just set up a template that you send out to people. You do a call out and send the template, boom. You know, a year's worth of content coming your way very soon, you know. So there's lots of different ways of doing things. And I think that's probably the benefit of having the journalist hat on. It's like, you know, curating what you're doing, thinking about things editorially, you know, particularly for a product-based business, thinking about key selling dates. Obviously, we've got, as any entrepreneur, there's Black Friday. You could talk about why you don't sell or discount because you're a small business on Black Friday, or you go in with some low offer. Either way, people are shopping, you know, they've set up their PayPal accounts, people have got money to spend, you know. So either way, you can say what you stand for or what you stand against. You can either go, I'm all over Black Friday, or I'm not doing it. But, you know, it's still a conversation you can have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. That's something the guest blogging, because part of the reason, not only I do these monthly interviews now and I bring on a guest, because it is lovely just so that it's not just me sitting here just talking to the camera and having a chat, but yeah, it's utilizing other points of view and other expertise, but also it allows me a week off in a way. Like, yes, I've still got to, you know, edit the video and do the podcast and stuff, but actually it gives me a bit of a break. Like I was away a couple of weeks ago, so I purposely scheduled, you know, that episode for that week if I'm away. So it actually gives a bit of a break as well. But yeah, I love that idea of guest blogging. I'll definitely be, if anyone wants to have a blog on mine, you're welcome to.
Yeah, but also it's, you know, and that's also a backlink for them. So this is all, you know, helping you being found on organic search. The more backlinks you've got to your website, you know, you're going to be found, you know. And again, that's the other benefit of being featured on the Metro website or something like that, that you get that backlink back to your business. Now, sometimes you have to ask and sometimes they say no, but usually, you know, that's part of, you know, you contribute to an article or give them a comment or a case study, and then you get a backlink back to your website. So, I mean, one thing that you can do to check whether it's worth your while doing a guest blog for someone is you can check their domain authority using moz.com has a free domain authority checker. You can only do a couple at a time. Let's say you're approached by someone. Now, sometimes they may have a low domain authority because they're a fairly new business, you know, they tend to be. But you think, well, I know that this person's going to be successful. I want to solidify a relationship. So you could still, and you know, their expertise will be great on your website, or you go for people whose domain authority is higher, and maybe they're not as useful in terms of a connection, but their ranking will help you also. So you know, once you start ranking for things, you start getting these random emails saying, well, will you drop in this link to our product? I'm like, no, I haven't used your product. I'm not going to be putting a link to it in my blog that's ranking for, is the email list dead or whatever, whatever I've written. So, they're all things to think about. But sometimes I have been approached by businesses who are like, can we guest blog for you? And I always say right back saying, you can guest blog for me, but can I have a blog on your site as well? But I've checked the domain authority, and if they're like over 30, I'm like, okay, that's worth doing. So yeah, a guest blogging strategy. Some businesses are, it's a great way to build your SEO.
Yeah, I love that. I'll have to, we'll get any of the kind of links and resources for you, like from anything that we've mentioned, and we'll put them in the show notes and stuff. Because I would definitely love to look at that. But it's like you said as well, it's there for the content, but also it does help. Like, I'm loving doing these interviews. I mean, doing this part is fairly new. Like, my podcast is fairly new, but it's lovely because it does actually then develop those relationships. It does, get you to build deeper connection with people, get to know people a bit more. So it's building up your network more. And that's always great because, and like I was talking about on another recent episode about, sometimes we always feel like we've got to be the expert in everything, don't we? We feel like, oh, well, people need this, so we try and do it all. Whereas actually you can utilize these people that and going to get to know, and say, actually, do you know what? Like, Claire is awesome at like PR and content. So rather than me trying to be the expert in it, why don't I just bring on someone in these areas that I know my audience are going to love, but rather than me try to do it all, or, let's bring on someone. And yeah, it is that two-way thing where the other person might go, oh, actually, like, I want to talk about this, so I'm going to bring on Jenny or whoever. So yeah, I think it's great for that relationship building as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, like, doing my podcast Cracking Content was my favorite kind of lockdown project, really. It was like, really nice. And I was doing 3 solo episodes and then an interview, and my solo episodes were always 10 minutes or under, and the sort of interviews were between 20 and 30 minutes, because I asked my audience, how much time do you have to listen to things? And it still makes me chuckle sometimes when I get a message and someone's like, I've just binged listened to you on a long car journey, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you poor thing. But if you're interested in content and want to get moving, these bite-sized chunks have been really useful for people. So but they can just listen to them on a dog walk or something. But I love, when you get messages, and I think that's the great thing about a podcast. You get, suddenly you're like, oh, I'm in the podcast charts in South Africa, or someone's listening to me in Denmark. It is still a growing platform, and you can see its popularity. It's going up and up. I think, and it will continue to grow because you can multitask. You can stack. You can stacking the dishwasher, listening to Amy Porterfield. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was one of my drivers to turning my video show essentially into a podcast, because I love to, because it's part of my strategy. I met, they were creeping up quite long. I've been able to bring them down now to about half an hour, but I was pouring so much into them, and I was like, actually, with video, unfortunately, some people are going to just drop off and they'll disappear after 15 seconds because they're busy. And actually with podcasting, like doing the research in it, people are listening for long times. Like, I know for me, I'll listen to it in the car if I'm on a walk. Like, I've listened to yours while I was walking. Like you say, if you're on an exercise bike in your spare room or whatever it is. At the gym. So especially if you have got longer shows, and I do tend to go a bit longer because I just can chat for ages. But that was one of my drivers behind turning my show into a podcast. Well, actually, I want people to get this awesome value, the work that I'm putting into it. And if I can then be found on another platform that people maybe don't like, and that's, like you were saying earlier, it's creating things in ways that people like. Some people don't like watching videos, they prefer to listen, or they prefer to read. And so
certainly I'm a listener and a reader. I'm not a video watcher. So and everyone learns in a different way, so I think, and that's the amazing thing. Like, if you do a show on something like StreamYard, I was saying off the call, that I do a live on a Monday. So we go out on my Facebook business page, my free group called Cracking Content, and LinkedIn. and then we repurpose it onto IGTV and YouTube. So, you know, you do one live video and it's in 5 places. And I really like the idea of doing a live podcast series as well. So you can schedule them so they go out live on YouTube and any other channels that you choose. And then, like you say, repurposing it, which is what you're doing with yours now. And it's just a great use of video and the audio. And well, rather than coming up with 10 different posts, you've got one piece of work that you've done once and you're just reusing it. So you're saving yourself so much time and energy and thinking about, oh God, I need to, you know, I need to create all these different content ideas of what to post. It's like, well, you can create, I mean, you can create so many things, like probably up to 20 pieces of content. Oh yeah, easily. You know, like easily. Yeah. And you know, and I'll say to some people, you know, they're like, where do I start? Like, I'm at the very beginning of my journey, and I'm like, well, what do you like doing? If you like writing, start with blogging, and that's where I started. And I was you know, I was blogging once a month and sending out a newsletter once a month because that's what I could do. And then I was, you know, doing 10 ways to pitch to the press, and then we'd make them into, in fact, I was on my own at that point. I didn't have a team helping me, you know, and then I'd make 10 posts about 10 ways to pitch to the press and so on. So yeah, I think it is thinking, and that's what I always say to people. And you know, that outage on Facebook and Instagram, you know, don't rely on social media channels as your only source. Always think about, you know, and I've been saying this from the day one, you own your website. So blogging from that will mean that you're boosting your organic SEO and you're driving traffic to that website. Creating podcasts or videos, again, they're things that you can drive traffic to, freebies or other funnels if you want to, all back to your website. And you can also grow your email list. You know, what, you know, I think everybody had a little moment of like, oh my goodness, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, all gone. What would I do? Would my business survive? You know, and I've seen a lot of people like, oh, find me here, or join me over here, or have you signed up to my newsletter? You know, lots of that stuff happening, which is great because it's like, we can't, what happens, you know, I know people who've got 5,000 to 10,000 connections on LinkedIn. They probably do most of their business on LinkedIn, but are they moving those leads over to their email list? Are they pushing traffic to their website? Because they should be, because what happens if the same thing happens to LinkedIn? Yeah, absolutely. You've got to protect yourself, haven't you? And like you say, it's, you know, I'm all about leverage. Like, that's a big part of my brand and what I do, because it is, you know, like, and just saving yourself time. If you get questions all the time, rather than, you know, doing a live video about it all the time, or another written post, to say, hey, I've got this blog already with all these questions that you it's a great way. And also, we know that posts just disappear, don't they? Like, as soon as they're gone from that feed, they're gone. You know, it's very rare that you can find it again. Whereas a blog post and things on your website, you can easily find them and reshare them to wherever. And just, it's maximizing the work you've done already, isn't it? Rather than just, oh God, where the hell was that post that did really well? Like, exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? Is that, and I was talking to someone about that as well, and they were like, oh my God, it genuinely had never occurred to me to just reshare blog posts I've already written. Like last year, like if you've written something about creating summer content, maybe update it or just reshare it and go, you know, or like the working from home one, we still share that when it's appropriate, you know, some content works really well. And, you know, and it's the same with press coverage. If you were featured in the Daily Mail last year, reshare it, go, oh, it was a great day, I loved being in the Daily Mail, or whatever, you know, press coverage you've got, reshare it. And you know, I think again, you know, people are like, oh, I feel like I keep on saying the same thing, and I'm like, you only feel like you're saying the same thing because you're putting it on multiple platforms. But if you think about the end user, they've probably only seen it once, you know. They don't think you're, whatever size your audience is on social media platforms, like a tiny percentage of people are going to see it. And quite frankly, if they remember what you're saying and they think, oh, there's Claire talking about growing your email list again, it's brilliant. And I was working with like a bespoke gin brand, and she was like, she messaged me and she said, I was at a live event, there were hundreds of people there asking about the gin, and I suddenly thought, what would Claire do? And she said, gathered all their email addresses. You know, and I'm like, good. She said, yeah, I've got 200 people that are interested in my gin. I was like, well, that was a win for one night's work.
But
you know,
also
you
need that repetition, because then that people are going to remember you, like, especially if you're an expert in a particular field, the more you talk about that same topic, people are going to, like, I remember Claire because I remember from her talking about podcasts and talking about content, and that sticks in your mind, and that's what you want for your audience to think about you. So you want to, you know, re-talk about the same topics over and over. Maybe you just tweak the angle.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Line, like share it again and again so that people will remember and think about this thing with you, and it comes together. And then when they maybe have a problem, or if they're ready to go, do you know what, I'm really ready to sort out this issue now, oh, I know who to go to, and ding ding ding, there you are. And
exactly. And that is that part of, if you want to become an authority or an expert at what you do, you know, it's like, you know, really think about, what do you want to be known for? You know, we think of Brené Brown, we think vulnerability. Simon Sinek, you know, start with why, you know. So they obviously, they're thought leaders that talk about lots of different things, but they're the things that they're known for, they're asked to speak about in stages, they've written books about, and so on. So I think it, you know, if you want to distinguish yourself from your peers and things like that, and also become like a pundit and press or speak on stages, you know, it is like, what's my unique selling point? What's my niche? What makes me different from other people that do what I do? And what do I want to be known for? You know, what do I not mind talking about for the next, you know, however many years? So I think that, you know, that's well worth thinking about as well when you're creating content, because you know, that's what you want people to go, oh, that's so-and-so, and they're an expert in, yeah.
And I want to just kind of come to, and again, it was something that we were talking about before we hit live, because you're kind of changing your strategy slightly, and even just coming up with the ideas, and just like we said earlier, it can be very easy to just get bogged down into just creating this content and lose sight of what we're doing and why, and even just coming up with ideas. So I'd love you to just talk about a little bit about your walking thing that you were mentioning. And
no, definitely. So one thing I don't share that often, but I am a trained Nordic walking instructor as well. I'm one of these people who's perpetually learning, but I'm passionate about walking. I walk every day, and I get my best ideas after a walk. So for me, like walking, and then it's proven that it boosts your creativity. There's a great survey by Stanford University about how walking actually boosts your creative output. So obviously lockdown, everyone was walking, but you know, were you mindfully were walking? You know, I tell people to unplug, put your phone either on airplane mode or don't take it with you. Really walk, really notice what's around you, and then come back and write. So I'm doing in-person walk and write sessions with clients and group sessions, and I'm also developing a corporate product which I think will be perfect for people who are doing hybrid working. So how do you bring your team back together? Host some walking and writing and creativity sessions. We're great for comms teams and marketing teams. So I'm busy working on that at the moment, because they're sort of uniting two things I'm really passionate about. And I think one thing that people really need at the moment is community, and they also need to reignite their creativity. So you will see a lot of people are just burnt out and tired from being on Zoom all the time. So if I can get people out walking and talking and coming up with new ideas, and then starting with that spark of creativity, what makes me different? How do I make my words come alive? How do I bring the magic to what I do? Because when you're infectious and excited about what you do, that attracts the right kind of people, you know, and it makes you stand out from the crowd. So for me, if people go, oh, okay, that's that lady who says you've got to walk and write to get your best ideas and write the best content, that's perfect for me, because I'm like, you know, sure, there's lots of other people doing it, but yeah, I'd love, you know, that's my thing, that's my focus, what I want to be known for.
I love that, because actually, like you say, it is, people have been stuck at home, we haven't been able to socialize much, like you say, people are now giving up their offices to now make their whole companies be remote, which is fab. It's got its benefits, but then people aren't having that commute, they're not having that break from stuff, they're working, some like my brother is working more than ever,
and
and
my husband, yes,
yeah, like and it's easy to then say, oh, I'm not going to do the workout, or I'm not going to go and exercise. And yeah, I know, whatever it is, but yeah, walking especially is just like, I live in a village where surrounded by fields and stuff, which is lovely, and I've not walked as much this summer, unfortunately, but it is. And even I love listening to podcasts, but then there are times where I'm like, do you know what? I need to just not have any consumption. And like you said, I either need to just listen to some music, that's not what I normally do, listen to some music and just allow my brain to expand and float and look around. Because if it is just constant, even though we love,
it's too much.
If it's always, you don't have a break from consuming, you haven't got that headspace to come
how
up with
could you
anything.
possibly create if you're completely always you know, all your senses, you're always getting all this information coming at all angles. You know, a really great writing technique that lyricists use and songwriters is called object writing. So when you're out walking, I'd say don't listen to anything, listen to nature, tune into, you know, ground your feet into the, you know, as you're walking, really tune into nature, listen to the birds, whatever you can see. And then you could pick up something when you're walking, bring it back and describe it using all your senses. If you look up object writing, and it is just a way to get into creative flow. You know, some days you're on fire, and usually for me that's after a walk. So if you know, if you haven't done this, try. And I did get someone message me and said, I've just been out for a walk because you told me to on your podcast. And I was like, good, that worked. And try and describe that object that you've picked up. It could be an autumn leaf or a conker or whatever, using all your senses, and see if it gets you into creative flow, because you're just writing with no purpose or reason. You're just getting, you know, using descriptive language, how it smells, how it looks, how it feels, and that can really sort of, in combination with the walking, will just hit you into flow. And if you think about it, those magic moments when you're writing or creating, where, you know, time kind of stands still. You know, artists talk about it all the time, but as writers we can do this too. But if we're always checking social feeds and everything's pinging and all of that stuff, you know, you don't have time to create something you're proud of. So I think it is sort of getting rid of those distractions and enjoying writing for writing's sake.
I love that. I'm going to try that, because I do have a tendency to just listen to music, because sometimes I like it because it makes me walk faster. So
and I get that, and that's like a great way to burn off steam. You could just go maybe like 10 minutes of this walk, I'm going to do it, and think of it as mindfulness, you know, like I'm going to look around, I'm going to notice, and I'm just going to sit with myself. And it's really interesting what can come up. And that's kind of part of the thing I've enjoyed about coaching, you know, like when we're silent, what comes up, you know, all this stuff, suddenly you'll be like, oh, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore, or you resolve a difficult issue with a team member or someone that you're working with, or, you know, you can resolve a lot of things as you're as you're walking along, and also come up with some great ideas.
I can imagine, because I know I'm probably, a lot of entrepreneurs struggle sometimes to switch off in bed, and that's when my ideas come, is when I'm trying to sleep, because it is one of the first times that there is just nothing, there's no phone. So I expect the walking piece might alleviate
it will,
because you have got that time in the day to just
download off shut come back to yourself, ground, you know. And you know, if you do get those ideas, and I'm sometimes a 5 a.m. idea person as well, you know, just having a notebook by your bed and just getting them down, because sometimes you go, I have a brilliant idea, and you think, God, I can't remember what it was.
I get my phone, and even though it's so bright, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is so bright, but I just get in my notes app, and I've got
rather than look at your phone, because that light will wake you up, get a good old-fashioned notepad.
Last night I had to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning because my brain was just and I was like, so I came down in here and I journaled, just got all the crap out of my head, and I could actually then go to sleep. So
good. Good. But that and there is that, there is that piece as well, isn't there, about switching off at night.
Yeah.
So no devices, no phone, even no telly. I mean, I quite often just have a bath and read, so I think we do need to switch off as entrepreneurs, because there's so many people you see, and it leads to burnout and general unhappiness, and that's not why we became entrepreneurs in the first place, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've got to make time for that creativity. So you've got to just, if you are so busy, like schedule in just nothing time, schedule in a time for you to go for a walk after lunch if you need a bit of a energy boost, or if you find that you're a bit stumped for ideas, schedule in a couple of hours where you can just go for a walk, go and have a bath, like whatever you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And schedule in time for you, because it will help your business in the long run. Like it's amazing they always say, you get your ideas like on the toilet or in the shower. It is true, because you're not doing anything. You're just with
giving your brain
yourself,
space, aren't you? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you've got to create that, because you'll get some little random idea and it will just spark something else. And as entrepreneurs, we are creative. We want to be unique and think of new things. Like my framework I created was from a random little spark when I was trying to sleep, and I was like, I need to write that down. Yeah, like 8 months later, I actually kind of put it and created it into something. I had this idea for a name for something. I didn't quite know what it was, and now it's like one of my unique frameworks, which is cool. So
really cool.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm definitely going to try out the walking with no music and just be, and just see how that goes, because I think that's really exciting.
And then afterwards, let me know what happens.
Yeah, and I love the intention behind it, because it's not just about coming up with content, but it is about bringing people together again and actually making it a bit of an event. It's like people are just, like you say, they've been craving and missing that community feel. So I love what you're doing with it. I think
thank you. It's my passion. Fab. Yeah, it's my passion.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Claire. This has been a fab. I mean, we could talk about content all day, but I want to respect.
Yes, we could.
I want to respect your time and everybody's time. So we'll put any links to any resources in the show notes for you. But Claire, do just let people know where they can find you if people want to follow you on social media and check out your podcast. So let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so free group on Facebook, it's called Cracking Content. Podcast's got the same name, and I'm at Claire Winter UK on Twitter, Instagram, and also Facebook, so you can find me there. Awesome. And website is clairewinter.info. Has it all.
Yeah, all of it. So we'll put all of that in the show notes for you. And definitely try out Claire's walking strategy and let us know how you get on with it. And thank you so much. This was such a great conversation, and it's been really nice to chat with you and again see I've learned some things today that I'm going to try out and put into practice, and I hope that everybody that's watching or listening to this will too. And definitely go and follow Claire, because she's fab. So any kind of final words that you'd like to share, Claire?
I think it's find time for the quiet moments to find that creativity that will make the content you create more creative and more aligned with your story and your mission, so take time, create space. So walk and write. Love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claire. Appreciate you and your time. And I hope everybody found this useful. Do leave us a comment, share this episode with anyone else that you think might find this useful. And I'll look forward to seeing you all on another episode of the Brilliantly You Business Show. So take care, everybody. Bye.